Welcome to Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim the Nerd, and seated next to me, as always, we have Professor Aubrey. And this week, if we do our jobs correctly, we're going to make you hungry by the time we're done with our main event.
That's right. We sure are. We're going to be talking about foods.
Yes, we're going to be talking about our 5 favorite foods ever. Now, as always, when we come up with lists like this, we will throw out the disclaimer that the key word here is favorite. Not good, not greatest, or anything like that, because you can have a favorite and understand, like, your favorite, and it's not on either of our lists, but I'll throw out an example. Someone could say their favorite food is a Twinkie.
Mm-hmm.
That is not gourmet food, but that could legitimately be somebody's favorite food, right?
Sure.
And that's what we're talking about here. Just the types of foods that could be gourmet, could be not, could be snack food, could be whatever, but just foods that we look back on and smile.
Well, I kind of thought too about foods that I would be happy to eat at any time.
Same here, yeah, because, I don't think, like, caviar is, like, an everyday type of food, you know. It seems like one of those foods made for certain situations. I mean, I've never had caviar. It may taste great, but, you know, sewer rat may taste like pumpkin pie. I wouldn't know because I wouldn't eat the filthy motherfucker, you know?
Okay.
But anyway, you get my point. How about I dive into my list and start things off?
That sounds great.
All right, so the first food that I wanted to talk about is potato salad, but most importantly, my mom's potato salad. You know, the foods that your mother makes are always good, no matter whether she's a good cook or not, you know?
Yeah.
For me, I think back and I think of the industrial-sized Tupperware bowl that she had for the potato salad. It was this yellow bowl with like that grayish white type of lid that you would place on top of it. It fit the entire bottom row of the fridge.
Was it sort of smaller on the bottom and it kind of came up in a curve?
Yep.
Yes, of course. We had that Tupperware.
Yeah, it was definitely awesome. And, you know, every time my mother would make potato salad, you know, I would freak out. And what I would do, too, it would be like she would be off at work or something, and the potato salad would be in there, and I would not want her to know that I had some.
Oh.
So all I would do is just open the fridge, have a spoon, open up the container, and then eat all the potato salad I could really, really fast.
Uh-huh.
You know, I love that stuff. But how she made it, I'll tell you here. I got all of the ingredients. So Miracle Whip, we were not a mayo family.
Mm-hmm.
We were a Miracle Whip family. And for the longest time, I did not like mayo until I was introduced to what they call on the East Coast Hellman's, but here Best Foods or Better Foods or something
Best
like.
Foods,
Yeah, I don't know why they have the split. I don't know, but Miracle Whip, mustard, a 10-pound bag of potatoes that were boiled and, you know, ready to be mashed up and everything, a dozen eggs, and celery. Now, of that list, what have I left out? Seasoning.
Yes.
Yes, my mother was not known for seasoning. It was the perfect white food, if there ever was white food. Like, I think of the seasoning that we have in the kitchen here, and it's not a huge collection by any means. I'm sure you probably know people that have a lot more seasoning, but if my mother saw that, she would like freak out. She was like, well, all we need is salt and pepper. That's all we need, you know. But I can also tell you about the time that I almost burned down the house.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It involved potato salad?
It involved potato salad.
Okay.
Yeah. She wanted me to boil the eggs. She knew that I wouldn't, you know, normally, I would take the dozen eggs, boil them up, and she knew that there would probably be 11 or 10 eggs left at the end, right? You know, like cost of doing things, she learned to live with it, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
But I had come home from school, I was in high school at the time, put the water on to boil, and lie down on the couch, just watching some TV. And then about an hour later, I woke up from my nap, and all of the water in the pan was gone,
Oh, Jesus.
and the eggs were on the ceiling.
Whoa.
They exploded. Luckily, there wasn't like a fire or anything like that, but if I had slept longer, it could have possibly gone that route. But
Yeah.
yeah, my mother was kind of pissed that day because it's like a dozen eggs. I mean, it was like early
Well, she
90s.
had to get them off the ceiling somehow.
No, I got them off the ceiling.
Oh, how did you
Yeah.
get them off the ceiling?
With a chair and just scrubbing and all that stuff with my mother. Why did you do that? I mean, she loved to yell. Oh my gosh, she loved to yell. But if anything, though, like that potato salad, I've not had a potato salad that has tasted like that ever since.
Yeah.
You know,
Why would anybody make a potato salad that tasted like that?
I know. Thanks, Ma. But thinking about it, though, I do. It's those good memories of enjoying food your parents made for you.
Yeah.
And that's why I put it on my list here. I still on occasion will buy potato salad from the store. I think the closest I've got is there's this potato salad you can buy. They call it the red skin potato salad, but they use like cream cheese
Oh.
in it, and that's pretty good here. But potato salad, do you like? I'm sure you like potato salad, right?
No, I don't like potato salad, especially of the type that you describe. I do like a nice German potato salad, which is just more oil and vinegar focused. It doesn't have good creamy sauce.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not a super big fan of potato salad. Now, I really do like mac salad, like macaroni salad.
I never got into macaroni salad. It's like I will eat it. It's always weird when people say, "Do you like Coke or Pepsi?" And I say, "I really love Pepsi." But if all there is a Coke, I'm satisfied with a Coke as well, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of the same thing when it comes to potato salad and macaroni salad. Like my first choice will never be macaroni salad, but if it's there, I'll eat it and I'll enjoy it. I just think though that like usually when I get the macaroni salad, like the sauce is a little too syrupy. I guess it's weird texture
Mm-hmm.
going down. So yeah.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, you're like, I know what you eat, Tim, and that's what stopped it for you. But anyway, so if you don't have anything else to say about potato salad, how about you tell the folks at home your first choice?
Okay, I'll certainly do that. So, keeping with the theme of foods that your parent made for you, I have pinto beans and cornbread. And now I know this is a two item, which I'm sure is probably against the rules, but it's a combo item. Whereas like pinto beans aren't my favorite food, and cornbread is not my favorite food, but pinto beans and cornbread are one of my favorite foods.
Are they served separately, or are the pinto beans like poured on top of the cornbread and you eat them together?
That's how I do it. So when I do it, I take the cornmeal, always make it in a cast iron skillet, so it's round. So you take your little triangle of cornbread, you crumble it up into your bowl, and then you put the beans on top, allowing the juices from the beans to penetrate the cornbread into a delightful. It's just delightful. I love it.
I've never been a big cornbread fan, or like biscuit fan or anything like that. I would not be welcome in most Southern homes,
No.
because of that. It's always the thing to where like it's always feels like it's dry. Now, I'm probably doing it wrong because I'm just eating the biscuit as is and not doing what you're doing in terms of either pouring something on top of it or doing what I'm sure people normally do and use it as like scooping up into the food in question, and then eating the cornbread that way. So maybe I would have a better experience if I just didn't eat the damn cornbread alone.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
Also, if it's warm.
That helps too. Yeah, I mean, if it's been in the fridge for a bit, then yeah, maybe not so good.
Nope. We call it desert bread when it gets really like dried out because it's been around too long.
You can break rocks with it.
Yeah, it gets hard and very deserty.
Yep. But do you have any memories of this here in regards to maybe like birthdays or home? Is this a delicacy in Appalachia type of?
Sure, I can answer all of those questions, Tim.
All right.
So first, it is a delicacy in Southern Appalachia. I think if you went to people up and down the mountains there that you said pinto beans and cornbread, people know exactly what you're talking about and be excited. Not so in other places that I've been. Like it's never been anything I've ever seen on a menu. Oh, I guess the what's that restaurant? The Iron Skillet. Remember the Iron Skillet?
No.
It's a country restaurant, a southern country restaurant but it's a chain, and now it's a national chain.
Hmm.
So they have these country stores, mostly along interstates, and they have food there, and they have pinto beans, and they have cornbread. So you can make pinto beans and cornbread there.
Okay. I think I know what you're. I think I know what the chain you're talking about. Yeah, just off the top of my head, I can't think of.
The Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel.
The Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have a Cracker Barrel in Portland anymore.
I know we had one for a while there,
Yeah.
and then they closed it because of,
Pandemic.
well, no, they survived the pandemic. It was the unsavoriness of their location.
No, it was a unique location, to say the
It was
least.
a very unique location. It was hard to get to from the interstate. Yeah, anyway, it didn't make a lot of sense why it went there, but it did.
Yeah.
And now it's gone.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
So long.
Yeah.
So this is a food that I often will still ask for my birthday from my mother. Can you cook up some pinto beans and cornbread? She's, of course, the best maker of these foods, these two fine foods. She certainly has the practice and has always made a delicious cornbread and a delicious pinto bean.
And unlike my mother, she uses seasoning, right?
Well, you put a whole ham hock in the beans. That's how you season the beans, is the salty porkiness of the pork.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Pork, baby. All right. How about I go on with my next choice? Speaking of pork.
absolutely.
All right.
I assume it has something to do with pork.
Or pork products, or
Uh,
byproducts, or something like that. I
uh,
mean, the well-made ones probably have more pork in it than other things, but there's nothing like a good hot dog. And for me specifically, I love the 7-Eleven quarter pound big bites.
a quarter pound of hot dog.
Yes,
That's a lot of hot dog.
that is indeed a lot of hot dog. And for a while after my divorce, that was part of my primary diet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the very first meal I had, because the apartment I moved in after my divorce, like less than a block away, was a 7-Eleven. And the very first meal I had was 2 quarter-pound big bites with no ketchup or mustard or anything like that, just eating them with a bun. That for some reason still love the taste of them. And a drink. And it was like, that was my freedom meal.
Yeah,
That
freedom.
was my freedom meal, yeah. But overall, too, like you introduced me to the Hebrew Nationals.
Hmm.
Even the quarter-pound ones of those Hebrew Nationals are just really, really good. Now, to your point, and to what I was hinting at before, there can be some poorly made hot dogs. Generally, the ones that will cost 99 cents for a pack probably have some meat type products in there.
Yes.
Probably, a little bit of a horse, maybe a little bit of a goat, or some
Let's not talk about
flies.
it. Let's not talk about it.
Or you know what I'm talking about. But overall, there's nothing that beats a good hot dog. I mean, think about summer. Toss them on the barbecue and they just taste delicious. In the middle of winter, you could pop them like in the oven, you could boil them, you could do whatever. There's nothing that beats a good well-made hot dog, right?
It's not my favorite food. I hear this is yours.
One of my favorites, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
I wouldn't have it on a list of favorite foods. Now, maybe on the outside, like if it was top 100 foods,
it would be 99.
if no, the hot dogs wouldn't even be on there, but corn dogs would probably make the list.
Okay. A relative, the close cousin, first cousin.
First cousin of the Big Bite is the corn dog.
Yes.
Don't they even have the corn dog at the 7-Eleven?
No corn dog at the 7-Eleven, but I would love to have a corn dog that's made of a quarter-pound hot dog. That would be awesome. And I'm sure they do make them somewhere, but I've never had a chance to get one myself.
Yeah, I don't know where they would make that, but
Yeah, maybe one of these days,
maybe someday you'll find it.
So, yeah.
Your prince was
Yeah, jinx. There you go. All right, so if you don't have anything else to say about hot dogs, how about you dive into your next choice?
Okay, my next choice is cheesecake. So, one thing you'll notice is that I have a sweet tooth, and many of my choices are dessert items. So, cheesecake. There are many types of cheesecake. and I am a cheesecake connoisseur. I will try just about anything that is described as cheesecake.
Now, one thing I do want to ask before you continue
Yeah.
is that if from our generation, the biggest defenders and the biggest prophets, for lack of a better phrase, of cheesecake were the Golden Girls.
Oh, really?
Because they would always eat cheesecake in the kitchen before they had, the scene in the kitchen where they're all at night dressed in nightgowns.
Processing what's happened.
In the story, yeah, or hearing Rose talk about what it was like back in Minnesota or something like that.
Hmm.
But they always had cheesecake. Was it that, or did you discover your love of cheesecake some other way?
I don't remember the first time I had cheesecake that I loved. I do remember always having a cheesecake that I loved, which is cheesecake that my mother made from a recipe, probably in Southern Living or something, that used Jello and evaporated milk to create a fluffy, cloud-like, lemony cheesecake. And that is my official favorite food, but only my mother can make this. And so I've expanded to include all types of cheesecake. I particularly like lemony cheesecakes or vanilla bean cheesecakes. I'm not a super fan of chocolate cheesecakes or things like turtle. It's just too much going on. Like I like a nice plain Italian cheesecake. I like better than a New York style, but I will eat a New York style cheesecake.
Now, recently we've had the Dolly Parton cheesecake,
Yes.
and I loved the texture of that myself. Like, when it comes to cheesecake, like I like it, but my preference is the more firmer
Mm.
cheesecake, the filling that goes into the pie. The light and fluffy stuff to me like tastes good, but it's like almost like eating from like a bowl of Cool Whip
Oh, uh-huh.
in terms of texture and stuff like that. But
And you don't like that. You don't like eating from a vat of Cool Whip because I really do.
yeah, not me. Yeah, it's not been me.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I got a shot in my face once, and if we go back in the show's archives, for no chance in hell.
That was your only experience with the whipped cream?
No, I've had whipped cream on other things before, but that was the first time with whipped cream on my face.
Oh, sure.
Like,
Yeah, so anyway, cheesecake. And I usually will get a cheesecake when I get to decide what kind of cake there is. I did have recently a cake that was half cheesecake, half white cake,
mm.
with buttercream frosting. So it was a layer of white cake, a layer of buttercream, a layer of white cake, a layer of lemony cheesecake, a layer of white cake, a layer of buttercream, a layer of white cake, a layer of buttercream.
And if you could see the smile on the professor's face describing that cheesecake, folks. Now, do you have
It's
any?
one of my favorite things, together. It's like so 100% dairy as well, which that is also a theme in my list.
Now, you mentioned liking to eat eating cheesecake during your birthday. Do you have any funny stories related to cheesecake and your birthday?
One thing about my birthday when I was younger, when I was a child, is that I got the hives every spring and I have a spring birthday. And so very often I'd have the worst case of the hives that I would have all year would be on or around my birthday. So I was very often staying home that day from school because it was so terrible and would get a cake. I liked cheesecakes. I also liked those big cookie cakes with the frosting that you spell something out on.
Mm.
Love those guys. But yeah, in terms of birthday fun, I had birthday parties like kids have birthday parties, and I've always had, at least a small group of people eat some cake on my birthday. But yeah, nothing really specific is coming to mind.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. But good stories there. How about I dive into my next choice?
Yeah,
All right. Number three on my list, and to be clear, on my list, there's no scientific ranking here. So, just because I have this at number three doesn't mean it is my absolute number three favorite. And it's depending on the day, but you can't really ever go wrong with a good hamburger. It's one of those types of foods that you really can't fuck up unless you really try.
really.
In my opinion, yeah. I mean, whether it be something that you cook up on the grill or go to a locally owned restaurant or go to a fast food chain or something, something a little more fancier than that, just give me two slices of bread and a lot of meat in between, maybe some cheese and whatnot, and I'm going to enjoy it. One thing though that I saw when I did have when the show did have a TikTok account, which we don't anymore, was shots of videos that they had at like fancy restaurants, like in Vegas or something like that, to where they'll make a hamburger, put it on a plate, and then pour a bunch of cheese on top of it, like melted cheese. It's like I would eat that. I would enjoy it. But why do that to a sandwich?
Yeah.
It's like, why have the bread involved if you're just going to pour cheese on top of it? Hamburgers meant to be held in your hands. Maybe your hands get greasy, maybe they don't, depending on how the buns are prepared and all that stuff. But that's the one thing I did not understand. And for me, uh, overall too, when it comes to hamburgers, for me, like the more meat the better. Like usually people are asking, do you want bread with that meat, Tim? Because like if I'm going to like Burger King, for instance, I got to get the triple whopper,
Mm-hmm.
which they don't make like they used to.
It's not even on the menu,
It is.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. It does depend on the particular location. But when I've had it recently, and the patties are smaller than they used to be back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Much, much smaller because,
I'm not surprised to hear this. This is true of everything. The toothpaste things are smaller than they used to be. The toothpaste tubes.
yeah,
Same price,
same price.
less stuff.
Yeah, any little way to save any sort of cent to make an accountant happy. But hamburgers.
Oh my God, I love hamburgers. I guess I agree that hamburgers are one of those foods where you can have a hamburger and eat it and maybe enjoy it, or a wide variety of burgers that you could eat and enjoy. But there's something about the perfect burger for you because the burger is such a diverse kind of food. It depends on how you dress your burger. That really contributes to how it tastes. It's the kind of bread that you use on your burger. It's the whether the bun is toasted or not. It's what kind of pickles you got going on. Like what kind of interesting toppings do you have happening?
That does remind me of that old Eddie Murphy bit where he talked about, as a kid, you go to your parents and you're like, oh, can we go to McDonald's? I want a Big Mac. I want a Big Mac. And your mother would be like, no, I can make a Big Mac at home. And she would get regular bread, not toasted, but, cook up the hamburger, put it in there, put the cheese on, and then you'd go outside and the grease from the hamburger is going through the bread. Your fingers are getting all greasy, and then everybody would look at you and go, "Ha ha, your family's poor, or you're on the welfare."
That sounds like it sucks.
It's Eddie Murphy. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
So how he delivered it was funny. How I delivered it, maybe not so much. But anyway, he had to be there, I guess.
Yeah. It's just, it's poignant. It is one of those foods though that can be as casual as you'd like or as fancy as you'd like. And I prefer the fancy ones.
Fancy's good, but for me, I don't want any extra frills. I guess when it comes to a hamburger, just throw on some meat, throw on some cheese. No lettuce, no lettuce. Lettuce. Restaurants are mostly garbage when it comes to lettuce with hamburgers because they toss on so much that you're like having to gnaw your way through the lettuce just to get to the meat.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous. I don't like it. So that's the one thing I will never have on a hamburger unless I absolutely forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, unless you have any other thoughts on hamburgers, how about you dive into your next choice?
All right. Let me tell you what my next choice is. Ice cream. So keeping with our cheesecake sweetness theme, ice cream I believe to be potentially the perfect food, particularly for me since I am a Western European, British Isles in particular person. And herding is like the thing that they did as opposed to farming. they kept herding for a really long time on the British Isles. And so I think that the love of milk comes from that genetic heritage. So anyway, I love milk. And so any way that I can figure out how to consume it in different formats, I'm
Straight
very
from the cow. No.
no, not straight from the cow, but near the cow would be cool. Like I'd like to know the cow, maybe.
You're birdie. Nom, nom, nom.
But ice cream is the best way to consume cream, I believe. And I prefer, my favorite is a custard rather than an ice cream per se. I like a custard, and the only difference is that a custard has eggs in it, and an ice cream does not. That is just the cream. We have, I don't know whether this is happening around the world, but here in Portland, ice cream is like the thing right now. Like you can get ice cream at very fancy places, and it's becoming a thing that bars are saying they have. It's just something really enjoyable that everybody seems to be jumping on the bandwagon. And apparently, you could charge here in Portland, Oregon, $12 for a pint of ice cream or $8 for 12 ounces of ice cream.
I'm sorry, but it. I don't care how good it tastes. That's just too much to pay for ice cream. That's not to say that I wouldn't enjoy it if someone else bought it and offered me some, but I'm just so. There are just some things that I will not spend that type of money on, and yeah, like for me, if I spend $12 on ice cream, I want it to like fill up my freezer.
Gotcha.
Now with inflation being what it is, that's, next to impossible anyway. But, I'm more of a quantity over quality type of ice cream enjoyer.
Yeah, I think that's generally true for you. Quantity over quality
Yeah.
is your deal.
Yeah. Give me a lot of it and I'll eat it all. That's right. Yeah. Now, my family, like my grandfather, and, some of my uncles and whatnot were involved in the milk hauling business.
Really?
Yes. And so had a lot of interaction with ice cream, like my Uncle Bob, for instance. Anytime we'd go over to my Uncle Bob and Aunt Sharon's house, we'd always find a way to sneak down into their basement because that's where they had like a deep freeze
Mm.
where they kept, like the big tubs of ice cream that would normally go to like an ice cream shop or something like that.
Oh, that big.
Yeah, but they were able because they, were able to deliver and whatnot. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure they still had to pay for it, but they got it on a much deeper discount than if they just walked in or something like that. But another situation of me just going down with a spoon, real quietly, so nobody heard me, and eating as much as I could, and then putting the lid back on and putting it back in the deep freeze like nothing ever happened. So if Aunt Sharon's listening to this, it was me.
Well, and you think they didn't know?
Depends. Like, I think they understood that it was going to happen, but if anything, and this is a rather crude way of putting it, but it was the type of situation of don't be the person that takes the last beer in the fridge.
Right.
Like, as long as you didn't go up and like have like one little tiny bit of ice cream left at the bottom there and didn't say nothing and just try to put it back and cover it up, then I think that they were going to be okay with it. Okay, in a sense of they understood it happened, because I'm sure they did it themselves, Like, it's one of those things, like, as an adult, when you do have kids in your life, you tell them not to do things, but like that, in terms of not eating it directly from the container or something like that. But how many adults have done that too, right? It's just teaching the kids the appropriateness of, not eating through the whole thing or, not slobbering into it or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That anti-slobber education is very important.
Anyway, any other thoughts on ice cream?
No, just I love it and would like to have some right now.
All right, but we can't do that until we wrap up our list. So how about I go on to my fourth choice?
That sounds great.
All right, for me, and I've already mentioned this particular item already, but this is cooked in a different way. Potatoes, either mashed or baked. I love me some potatoes.
Do you
Um,
like oven fried potatoes?
I've baked them in the oven before. I've baked them in the microwave. I've boiled potatoes and, mashed them up that way.
But like, have you ever just cut up potatoes and roasted the pieces in the?
Um, I've not done that. I've
Okay.
not done that. Like my mother used to do that, like chop it up and then, put in like corned beef hash in there as well and kind of cook that up all together. So that does sound good. So I definitely want that. But, with me, when it comes to like either mashed potatoes or baked potatoes, I'm the type of person that, people would ask, do you want potatoes with that butter? You got to have a lot of butter involved.
Yes.
Like I remember making some mashed potatoes and, putting in the butter. And it was the first time I made mashed potatoes for you. And this is the first time I saw that look on your face where you're like, huh? Or you're smiling, but your eyes are like, what the fuck? And yeah,
I don't even remember this.
it was in Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah, so it didn't. My mashed potatoes did not go over well. But also too, when I was single and had a microwave, did what I called a potato concoction, where six potatoes go in the microwave, bake them, take them out, and then you put butter, you can vegetable, you put that on there, you toss some cheese on there, some ranch
Oh
dressing,
my God.
and yeah, yeah, I loved it. I loved it. But what I've learned the older I get is that too much of anything and your inner constitution will be like, no, Tim, no, Tim, you're not having the potatoes. Go to the bathroom, poop them out now, and it'll be splatter everywhere. But don't eat so many potatoes. So I do watch the amount of potatoes that I eat, but I love potatoes. Like, when I did used to frequent buffets, most of my plate would be mashed potatoes.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems like a very uneconomical way of getting mashed potatoes.
I, you know, call me crazy. I love me some potatoes, but
So, so let me just clarify a couple of things for our listeners at home. First of all, six baked potatoes,
usually,
and you would maybe cut them in half lengthwise so they're laying open on the plate.
no, I'd just pop them in the mic. Once they were thoroughly cooked, then I would like smash them all up on the plate. And yeah, they weren't cut in any particular, sort of way or anything like that. It was just kind of just cut them up on the plate.
Okay. And did you eat the skins as well?
Yep.
Oh, you did.
That's the way to do it.
Okay, well, as long as you're eating the skins, I think that they're much more healthy than they would be otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but like I said too, like I like these days over the past couple of years especially, I've really cut down on the amount of potatoes that I do. Like the concoction thing, I think it's been roughly a year since I've had a potato concoction.
Mm-hmm.
And even then,
I'd look forward to a life without that.
well, even then I cut down from six potatoes to four, so there
Oh,
was some improvement there. But
nice.
yeah, any thoughts on potatoes, or do you want to go on to your next choice?
I like potatoes. I do not have nearly the relationship with those as I perceive that you do. I like them. I don't love them. I don't have to have them. When I go to someplace that has them, I will try them, but I oftentimes don't like them. Like I like a particular kind of mashed potato. I don't like the skins in the mashed potatoes. I don't like for the mashed potatoes to have big chunks of potato, but I don't like them to have no chunks of potato. So I'm very persnickety about them. But if I get some good ones, I do enjoy them.
Yeah, she will throw the potatoes at the waiter's face. No, I'm kidding. It's not that bad, but I get it. To each their own, So that's the beauty of eating with me. If you don't like something, you give it to me. But
Hmm.
how about you dive into your next choice?
Okay, my next choice is probably universal, and that is pizza. What a wonderful food. It has a grain, it has a fruit, a slash vegetable. It has the dairy product and then whatever wonderful vegetables, meats, and cheeses that you put on top of it. So it's a wide variety of foods fall under the pizza name, and they're very different from each other, but I like them all. And I've eaten some really bad, like, store pizzas. Like, there was a store pizza in the 90s. It was like a big round pizza on a circle of cardboard that you would cook. And it wasn't frozen, it was like made in the store.
Hmm.
But I think that they have improved those significantly since the 90s when it was kind of like the worst pizza ever.
There are some good frozen pizzas, and after we wrap up recording tonight, that's going to be on our menu. There are definitely some good frozen ones out there. And pizza, I would put below hamburgers in terms of being the type of food that's really hard for you to screw up.
Mm.
There are places like Little Caesars that will show you that it's possible to screw it up. But generally, yeah, like you can do a lot. You can have a breakfast pizza. I've seen those before. Well, they'll put like typical breakfast toppings on top of the pizza and have that. You can have a dessert type of pizza.
Yeah, you totally can have a dessert type of pizza, which is quite delicious, especially if it's a cinnamon sugary kind of thing. There's also different kinds of pizza depending on where you're from. So there is the most famous, probably New York style cheesecake, not cheesecake, pizza. There is a New York style cheesecake, but now we're talking about New York style pizza. They're great together. And cheesecake's very popular with Italian Americans.
Cheesecake pizza.
Cheesecake pizza. So anyway, you got your New York style pizza, you got your Detroit style pizza, you got your Chicago style pizza, you got your LA style pizza, which just has vegetables on it.
Yeah,
You got wood fired pizza, you've got deep dish pizza, you got thin pizza, you got medium pizza. There's just so many kinds of pizza.
now what's interesting too is how different people can enjoy it in different ways. Like for me with pizza, like if I was ordering for just myself, I would be tossing on all kinds of toppings. Whereas you are generally the type that will, keep a limit, maybe three at the very most.
Well, that's more economics than anything. Like the toppings make the pizza very expensive. I would like to have more toppings,
Yeah.
but I economize
Someone has to.
on very few things. I will economize. Pizza being one of them. It's just so good without the toppings. You don't need the toppings to enjoy it. I don't.
You would just have a cheese pizza?
I love just cheese pizza. I love a just cheese pizza, especially a New York style just cheese pizza. I think that's the best kind of cheese pizza.
Yeah. For me, it's not that I don't like just a cheese pizza, but for me, I would want something else on top of it as well. Like if cheese pizza was the only thing on the option, I'm going to enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. And there are some other good ones too. Like there was from Safeway of all places. They had that the spinach one.
The mushroom spinach one?
The mushroom spinach one was really damn good.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
don't have it very often
Yeah.
because it's so good.
Yeah, and the sauce that they used on that was good as well, but you can do so much with a pizza. But just don't go to Little Caesars. That place sucks. And I say that as somebody that, grew up where Little Caesars was born in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, have you had Detroit style pizza?
Never heard of Detroit style pizza.
That's interesting. We live up the street from a Detroit style pizzeria, across the street from a Chicago style pizzeria.
Oh, the Wild Child place?
Yeah, Wild Child.
Yeah, I don't think we've had the Wild Child. We've had the Chicago place. And deep dish for me, it's like, that's more of a pie. Well, they call it pizza pie, but it feels like more of a pie than a pizza,
Huh.
if that makes sense. Just because of everything that they toss in there. It was like a casserole too. You could make an argument that it could be that, but That does
So
not
you
mean
don't like deep dish pizza?
I'm not saying that. It's just it would not be my go-to.
Okay, it's not your favorite.
Yeah.
But pizza's not your favorite anyway.
I mean, it's not on my list, but I would say it's one of my favorite foods. It's one of those, to your point, you mentioned it's one of those universally loved foods. It's good in a gourmet type of style. It's good for just throwing shit together and tossing it in the oven and making it. It's really hard to mess up.
Yeah, it's really hard to mess up.
Yep,
And I think it's like any food, like the pizza that you grow up having, that's the pizza that you like the best.
agreed, agreed. How about I end my list?
That sounds great.
All right, wrapping up my list here. I got to toss on burritos. And I was first introduced to them thanks to my mother. Now, on the weekends, she, after work, would usually go out to a bar or a restaurant or something like that with friends and hang out and stuff. And there was one place in Grand Rapids, I think it was called the Beltline Bar, that had wet burritos. You are familiar with wet burritos, but I found out a few years back that wet burritos are not this universal dish. It's kind of a regional thing,
Mm,
and all that is a burrito covered in enchilada sauce. I believe there are some places in town here that do that.
absolutely, yes.
In fact, I believe, yeah, that there's a Mexican food cart just down the road from us here that does have a wet burrito as well. But what I remembered about my mother, I learned from my mother in terms of she was the first person that would order a big dish, eat to her heart's content, and go, "Here, Tim, do you want the rest?" And it was always that way with the burritos because the wet burritos that she would eat like a quarter of it.
Hmm.
And like the rest was there, like huge, lots of meat dipped in sauce. And, she's coming home on a Saturday night, and, she's giving it to me. And I'm either watching Saturday Night Live or Saturday Night's Main Event if I got lucky and eating the wet burrito and just loved it. And for me, when it comes to a burrito, the bigger the burrito, the better. I do enjoy a good frozen burrito. It's something simple. You can toss in a microwave, but they do feel small. For me, my preference is one that, you kind of hold with two hands. Just a really, really big one. And yeah, yeah, that's what she said, right? Anyway,
She said.
yeah. But also, too, what I found, especially living in Portland here with all the wonderful food carts that we do have, like, this is, I think, this shows that delicacies that come from different parts of the world are best made by the people from that part of the world. Now, does that mean a guy from Minnesota couldn't make a great burrito? Of course not, but go by the default. And if you're going by the default too, you're most likely heading to a food cart or a locally owned business and supporting good people that are trying to make a living and not like the big chains like a Qdoba or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Qdoba cannot hold a finger to a real taqueria.
Yeah, exactly. But and again, to be clear, that's not saying I've never shopped at a Qdoba or anything like that. They're fine, but you give me a good taqueria, and even if it's awkward ordering because of the language barrier, at the very least, you're walking out with some really great food with great seasoning involved. But burritos, I know you like burritos.
I do. I love burritos. I like a small burrito. You like to get the biggest burrito. I like to get the smallest burrito. I really enjoy these little mini burritos that they have at Laughing Planets, which is a chain here. I don't know other places, but there's a lot of them in town. And they have a Thai mini burrito and like a bean and rice and cheese mini burrito, and they are perfect size for me and delicious. I do like a mole sauce. So I like to get a burrito if I can, if I'm eating in a restaurant and I'm in the mood for a burrito. I'd love to get a burrito covered in mole sauce like they do the enchilada sauce. So I do that with a burrito sometimes. And yeah, I mostly will just get like a bean, cheese, and rice burrito, like a very basic, straightforward. Maybe some sour cream on there.
Yeah. Now, recently I have been enjoying what they call them here Oregon burritos, but in California they call them a California burrito, and it's all it is a regular burrito, but they switch out the rice for French fries.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah, you like
More
that.
potatoes, yes, more potatoes.
Yeah.
But anyway, how about you wrap things up?
Okay, I'm gonna wrap things up.
That's what
Um,
she said.
so my last one is kind of a category of food because I couldn't decide exactly which, and that is pastry. So I love a good pastry again with my sweet tooth and my love of carbs. It's perfect for me. And I like to try to make pastry sometimes, but I'm really bad at it. So I mostly like to buy pastry. And we happen to live, what, 2 blocks away from a French bakery that has lots of pastry. And there are lots of other great places in town that have pastry. So a lot of coffee shops have amazing pastry that they purchase from somebody who's like making it at home or something. If I could, what I would like to perfect making is a cinnamon roll, a perfect cinnamon roll with perfect frosting. But unfortunately, someone I know has just become allergic to cinnamon.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that dream will not come true. And I count biscuits in with pastry. So, like anything that you would cut butter into or use pastry flour for, I think that that is a pastry, that counts as pastry. So, I just love them all
Well, there you
and
go.
put butter on them.
Yeah, like a good biscuit, like if it's done right with the right amount of butter, and again, tossing other things on it as well is very good. A good cinnamon roll as well. Yeah, to your point, the white frosting that you usually get with the cinnamon rolls on top, if it's done just right, taste delish.
Yeah, so good. Would really like to make those.
You're making me hungry.
I know, I'm making myself hungry.
Well, how about we kick it to one of our podcasting friends so they can talk about their show real quick, and then we will jump right back to talk to our friends at home.
Awesome.
All right, hang tight, everybody.
Face it, dating sucked in your 20s, gets worse in your 30s, and your 40s, forget it.
It's a cesspool out there, and we're your flotation device.
Join us weekly for saucy chat, ridiculous love gurus,
And MILF-worthy fun to spice up your life.
the MILF and Me podcast. Every Wednesday on your favorite pod platform.
And the MILFandMePod.com.
The MILF and Me podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we wrap things up for the week, the professor and I, if you can hear the ambient noise in the background, just came out of a special event here, one that I know that the professor was excited to go into. We saw the new Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, at the Hollywood Theater.
We sure did. What an experience that was.
Damn right it was. It was written and directed by James Mangold, who was the creative mind behind what started the modern era of music biopics, Walk the Line in 2005 about Johnny Cash with Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, that was a great movie as well.
But what a wonderful film. The thing to keep in mind is that even though this is based on a real person, some things, being that this is a story that they're telling and not a documentary, some things were like Dylan's girlfriend at the beginning of the movie, Sylvie. There's no real person by that name. She's an amalgamation of a couple of different people.
Right, exactly. And his romantic life has been very shrouded in mystery.
One critique I did have is that when it came to like the Sylvie character, there was no real breakup scene, but then you found out that they were broken up and it was just like, huh?
Well, I think that's how it, can sometimes happen when you're such an integral part of someone's life, because in the film, Bob and Sylvie are living together in New York. She's facilitating his ability to sit around and write songs all day. She's supporting them. It's her house they're living in. And so she does all of this work to support him.
And then he brings Joan Baez home for the night.
While she's gone, while she's out of town, he brings Joan Baez home for the night. And, you know, ultimately they ended up breaking up. They got back together. They broke up again. And, like, I was so sad for her because I think that can sometimes happen where really brilliant people don't do so well with interpersonal communication or getting along with other people. And I think that's true for Bob Dylan. I think he's just a very unique individual who was not in a position to give up on what he thought was right musically and politically.
Now, as far as the film goes, what would you say was its biggest strength?
The acting was really well done, particularly the guy who played Bob Dylan, but also the guy who played Johnny Cash I thought was good. The guy who played Pete Seeger. I mean, gosh, the guy who played Woody Guthrie, like what a hard role to play. And he did it so beautifully, and it was so sad when, you know, Bob Dylan drives away for the last time, we think, from Woody Guthrie's hospital room.
Yeah, I mean, because at that particular time in the story, it was 1965, and if I'm not mistaken, not Pete Seeger, what am I talking about? Woody Guthrie ended up living till about 67 or 68, right?
I think that's right, yes.
Yeah, so for me, I think the biggest strength was showing, one, just how lucky Dylan was. Because think about it, like it shows him hitchhiking from Minnesota to New York because he wanted to see his hero Woody Guthrie. He finally arrives at the place where Woody Guthrie is in the hospital, and Pete Seeger is visiting him at the time, but Bob didn't know either of them, and they both could have said, hit the brakes, get lost, but they didn't.
Exactly. They let him play and sing, and you know, absolutely the luck of this man was really demonstrated in the movie, where he can just walk into places, and you know, places in New York in the Village, and was successful. Like it seemed like he never went through a period of not being successful.
Yeah, because I believe they said, like in 61, he was very, very early 20s. And I don't know about his history in Minnesota. I don't know if he came from like a rich family, middle class, or poor family, or anything like that. So, like, I don't know if he, to your point, really did have any real financial struggles or anything like that.
Well, I think he had financial struggles.
Well, to your point, yeah, because he did talk about, you know, like he was asked, like, what do you want to be? And he goes, a musician who eats.
Yeah, exactly. And so he depended on other people to support him, at least for a little while. And you just got this feeling that he just got away with being kind of a dick because he was so talented. I mean, it is still talented, you know.
Agreed. What I liked too, I guess, is how it seemed like that the famous people in question, like Johnny Cash, like I did not realize Johnny Cash was the one who kind of pushed Dylan to do Electric at the Newport Folk Festival in 65.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I mean, to be clear, I don't know Dylan's history, so this may be something that was added to the film that is not, you know, something that really happened in real life, but who knows?
Yes.
I think the other thing that I really appreciated about the movie is that it really did kind of show his importance and why he was important to modern popular music in the 20th century, because he fought for what he believed in, even in something like folk music that had a different crowd than rock and roll or something like that. You still had plenty of people who were pushing for folk artists to play the same stuff as it has been played for years and years and years. And there's value in that, but I think you can be so blinded by the past that you're not seeing the future right in your face, and I think it's that drive of an artist to continue to want to change and do other stuff, because like Dylan could have easily I think they pointed it out plenty of times in the movie, Dylan could have easily toured for many, many years just playing the big hits and making a lot of money.
Yeah, but instead he's written 55 albums.
That's true, and written a song with Gene Simmons, so all of his dreams have come true. He's easily one of the most important musicians of the 20th century. I think another thing I liked is how his music ended up influencing a lot of people as well. Like, how did you feel about the Joan Baez scene where he's talking to her about you take your art too seriously?
I think I actually went to the bathroom during that, because when I went to the bathroom they were together, and when I came back they were broken up.
It was a little bit earlier in the movie where I guess he was talking. It was shortly after they first met, and he said he liked her singing and all that stuff, but in terms of her songwriting, said it was more polished than it needed to be, and I guess it didn't feel honest. And I get the impression that at least the character in the movie took that to heart, and ended up changing her style because of it too.
Ah, I see.
Also, too, I love the fact that they brought up Diamonds and Rust at the end of the film, because that was one little unique song that I was able to play you that Judas Priest played. Judas Priest covered Diamonds and Rust.
That is absolutely amazing, and I have heard it. And this was, of course, my favorite Joan Baez song, knowing that it was about Bob Dylan. And I tried to get into Joan Baez otherwise, and was unable to, because of that sort of straight-lacedness of her.
She does have, I have a lot of respect for her, don't get me wrong. Is she an artist that I'm ever going to pop on my playlist and listen to? Not really. I mean, I remember being kind of bored to tears during her performance in the Woodstock movie when I saw that in theaters.
Yeah, she was probably the most boring person that played Woodstock, I'd say.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't discount her influence. Just because I'm not a huge fan of hers personally doesn't mean she's a bad artist. Blah blah blah. Y'all get my point. But
and she was a folk artist, and she stayed a folk artist, and she's still a folk artist. She never left that world.
And that's cool. I did love her introduction in the movie, because it's the camera suddenly changes scenes, and there's a woman, you see the back of her head walking, and then I tapped you because I knew, it was like, that has to be Joan Baez, and just controlling a controlling presence that I really appreciated. But I can't say enough good things about this movie. If you do get a chance to see it in theaters, because for the music alone, see it in theaters.
Yes, and that's another thing we should mention. He did his own singing, the actor who played Bob Dylan, and I was very concerned about that at the beginning, but it was great. It was really great. It didn't sound like Bob Dylan. It sounded like an actor playing Bob Dylan, but doing it really well.
And my understanding, too, is that even though this is not something that they normally do for movies, this time what they did is they recorded the songs live to tape. What you are seeing in the movie is them actually performing at the time it's being filmed, and not ADR'd in later.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So overall, a great little snapshot of one of the most important times in modern popular music, I think, of the 20th century, easily.
Definitely.
So give it a shot. Go see the movie, even if later in 2025 it ends up on a streaming platform. Go see it. It's good. James Mangold, the director, like I mentioned, responsible for Walk the Line, but also was responsible for easily what is considered one of the best comic book movies ever made, Logan.
I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, it is essentially about the death of Wolverine. The new Deadpool and Wolverine movie kind of walked that back a little bit, but they did explain away that the Deadpool and Wolverine is part of the multiverse and not the one that died.
I see.
But that's the thing with James Mangold too. Like, he's one of those directors that will make a movie like Logan so he can make movies like this. But anyway, Complete Unknown. If you are a student of music, you have to watch this.
Absolutely. If you like Bob Dylan at all, absolutely go see it. Of course, we don't have much information about Bob. He's very tight-lipped, and he was in the movie. Like, we didn't really learn anything we didn't already know about Bob Dylan in this movie.
Yeah, because, I mean, he just shows up in all... Yeah, like, they even kind of talked about how in the movie, people didn't really know about his past in Minnesota. I know he's written a memoir that is out, and he's also written a book about talking about modern popular music as well. So he's written a couple of books. If you are interested, you can hop on Amazon, go to the library, or do whatever you need to read those. But overall, too, like, I'm glad we have him. I'm glad we have him. It'll be sad the day that he finally passes on, but his music will live forever.
Absolutely.
What a morose way to end things.
Yeah.
But did you have anything else you wanted to say to our friends at home before we wrap it up this week?
No, just try to appreciate the moment you're in, because boy, it goes by really fast. And that's what I was just thinking of through the whole movie. Like, when I was his age, what was I doing? What was the big thing that was happening in the world? And that sort of experience of being a young person, it really brought that all back up for me.
Damn right. Well said. So everybody at home, each Monday, we'll have something in this podcast space to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu.
So long.
It ain't me, babe.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy
On YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Goodbye, darling.